What if the real power wasn't in what you say, but in what you don't? Imagine being surrounded by chaos. People shouting, life pulling you in every direction, emotions screaming inside you to react. But you don't. You stand still, silent, calm, like a mountain unmoved by the storm. The world calls it weakness, but deep inside you know it's something else, something stronger, something that can't be shaken. There was a time he couldn't imagine this kind of control. He was the kind of man who reacted to everything. A single insult could set him on fire. A small disappointment could ruin his entire day. Every emotion that entered his mind took control of him like a puppet. Anger pulled one string, fear pulled another, and pride, the most dangerous of all, whispered in his ear every time someone challenged him. He thought reacting meant he was strong. That silence meant defeat. But it was the other way around, and he learned it the hard way. It began on a night that would change everything. He had lost his temper at work. Again, one argument, one careless word, and everything collapsed. He said things he didn't mean. He walked away proud but empty, convinced that being right was all that mattered. But when the noise faded and silence returned, regret started to eat him alive. It wasn't the world that destroyed him. It was his reaction to it. That night, sitting alone in his dimly lit apartment, he stared at the wall and asked himself, "Why do I lose control so easily?" And a quiet voice inside him whispered, "Because you never learn to pause." The next morning, he made a decision. He walked to an old bookstore near the edge of the city, a place filled with forgotten wisdom and dust-covered shelves. He didn't know what he was looking for, but he found it anyway. A small, worn-out book titled Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. He didn't know who the man was, but the first line he read struck him like lightning. "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." He read it again and again. Power over your mind. Not the world, not people, not fate, just your mind. And that was enough. That day marked the beginning of his transformation. He started to see how every reaction he gave was a form of surrender, a way of handing his peace over to others. And so he began with the simplest rule: observe before you respond. It sounded easy, but it was war. Every time someone criticized him, his chest burned to defend himself. Every time the world provoked him, his mind screamed to strike back. But he would stop, breathe, and watch. He learned that between what happens and how you respond, there's a small space, and in that space, freedom lives. At first, he failed more than he succeeded. But slowly, the silence between stimulus and response began to grow longer, and that silence became strength. He noticed something strange. The more he paused, the more clearly he saw others. He began to realize that most people weren't angry at him. They were angry at themselves. Their insults were confessions. Their rage was pain. And his stillness became a mirror they couldn't stand to look into. He started to feel something he hadn't in years. Peace. Not because the world had changed, but because he had. But peace doesn't come without a test. His came in the form of betrayal. A close friend, someone he trusted completely, turned against him. Lies spread. His reputation was torn apart. The urge to react, to fight back, to defend himself publicly was unbearable. His hands trembled with rage. His heart screamed for justice. But then he remembered the words he had underlined in that book. "You are not your emotions." He repeated them in his head, again and again, until the anger faded into quiet understanding. He realized that emotions are visitors. They come, they stay, they leave. But if you build your home inside them, they destroy you. He didn't need to defend his name. Truth would do that for him. So he stayed silent. And for the first time, silence spoke louder than anger ever could. People didn't understand his calm. They thought he had given up, but he hadn't. He had simply stopped fighting the wrong battles. He learned to control what he could. His words, his reactions, his thoughts, and release what he couldn't. The opinions, the outcomes, the chaos. When he walked through the city now, he saw people drowning in emotions they didn't control. Anger boiling under every conversation. Fear behind every smile. He saw himself in them, the old version of who he was, and he felt a strange kind of pity. Not superiority, just awareness. He realized that the world isn't cruel, it's just loud. And those who can stay silent in the noise, they're the ones who survive it. Then came loss, the kind that breaks you quietly. Someone he loved was gone. The kind of loss that no philosophy can truly prepare you for. And yet this time he didn't shatter. He stood by the grave and whispered the words of the Stoics. A fate leads the willing and drags the unwilling. He let the pain exist. Didn't run from it, didn't fight it. He just let it be, because pain, he learned, is not the enemy. Resistance is. He understood now that life would always take things from him. People, moments, dreams. But it could never take his inner peace unless he offered it, and he wasn't offering it anymore. Days became months. He started living differently. He stopped reacting to every problem. He stopped chasing every argument. He became a quiet observer of his own life. And in that quiet, something beautiful grew. Discipline. He began waking up early, training his mind as much as his body. Every emotion became fuel. Every frustration became fire. He didn't wait for motivation anymore. He created it. He stopped asking, "Why me?" and started saying, "Try me." Pain was no longer punishment. It was preparation. And the more he endured, the more he realized the obstacle is the way. He had transformed his suffering into structure. Each morning he repeated a mantra, "I control nothing but myself." And with that, he started to move differently, slower, more deliberate, more aware. When someone insulted him now, he smiled. Not because it didn't hurt, but because he saw through it. He understood that when you react, you feed their power. When you stay still, you starve it. And soon no one's chaos could reach him anymore. He had found something stronger than anger, stronger than pride, indifference, but not the cold, careless kind, the kind born of understanding. He wasn't detached from life. He was free from it. He didn't need praise because he no longer feared criticism. He didn't chase love because he had found peace within. He didn't cling to control because he finally saw the truth. Control isn't about holding on. It's about letting go without falling apart. And then came the moment that would test everything he had learned. He was standing in a crowded hall facing the same man who once betrayed him. The one who had spread lies, ruined his name, mocked his silence. That man now stood in front of him again, desperate, cornered, begging for help. The people around waited for a reaction. They expected revenge, retribution, justice. And for a brief moment, the old fire returned, the memories of humiliation, the taste of anger. But then he looked closer. The man who once mocked him now looked broken, weakened by his own emotions. And he realized something profound. Reacting is what destroys them, not silence. He reached out his hand, not in revenge, but in mercy. Because when you don't react, you control the story. And when you forgive, you end the war inside yourself. That day, he didn't win over another man. He won over himself. And that victory, no one could take away. Years later, when people asked how he became so calm, he would only smile and say, "I stopped trying to control the wind. I learned to control my sails." He had become a living example of the Stoic truth. That true strength is invisible. It's the man who walks away from conflict, not the one who wins it. It's the person who chooses silence over shouting, stillness over chaos. It's the one who realizes that you can't stop the world from testing you, but you can stop it from breaking you. He spent his days now in quiet reflection. No noise, no endless chatter, just the sound of life happening and a steady heart beating within it. He no longer needed to prove his worth through reaction. He had found something better, peace that no one could disturb. He finally understood that emotional control wasn't about killing feelings. It was about feeling everything but choosing nothing to own you. He could love without attachment, lose without despair, speak without ego, and act without anger. That was the power of not reacting, not emptiness but mastery. Sometimes, late at night, he would look out the window at the city lights, each flicker representing someone, somewhere, fighting their own battles. He wondered how many were losing to emotions they could never control, and he wished they could feel what he felt now. That strange serenity that comes when you stop being a slave to reaction. He whispered quietly to no one in particular, "A peace isn't given to you. You build it, moment by moment, by refusing to hand your mind over to chaos." And as the night deepened, he smiled, because he knew that the world would never stop testing him. But now it didn't matter. He had found the stillness with it. And once you find that, you realize no one can take it from you. No insult, no loss, no fear. Because when you master yourself, the world can touch nothing that truly matters. The storm can scream all at once. The mountain will not move, And that is the power of not reacting.